welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at gods5minutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. Matthew 5:10, the 8th of the Beatitudes, reads, "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The preceding 7 Beatitudes allow us to see the true citizens of the kingdom growing into form and completeness before our eyes. They tell us what they are in their own consciousness, what they are in their longings, what they become in inward nature by God's gift of purity, how they move among men as angels of God, meek, merciful, peace-bringing. Is anything more needed for a complete portrait? Well, yes. What the world is to them, what are its wages for such work, what is perception of people like that? Their relations to it are those of peace-bringers, reconcilers. Its to them are those of hostility and dislike. Blessed are the persecuted for righteousness' sakes. These words are as universal and permanent in their application as any which have preceded them. The benediction which is attached is not an arbitrary promise, but stand in as close a relation to consequence to the characteristic as do the others. And it's marked out as the last in the series by being a repetition of the first, to express the idea of completeness, a rounded whole, to suggest that all the other Beatitudes are but elements of this, and that the initial blessing given to the poor in spirit is identical with that which is the reward of the highest Christian character, the one possessing implicitly what the other has in full development. Antagonism is inevitable, rather, between Christians and the world. The character taught in the Beatitudes, point by point, is alien from the sympathies and habits of unbelievers. Their principles are different, and so are their practices. A Christian ought to be, and is, a standing rebuke to the world, a visible flesh and blood conscience. There are only 2 ways of ending that antagonism, either by bringing the world up to the Christian character, or, although it can't be done, bringing Christian character down to the world. The certain and uniform result is opposition and dislike, which are the definition of persecution. Here in the U.S., what we presently bear may seem small compared to the prisons and beatings taking place in other countries, or to the Colosseum with its lions, or the Inquisition with its fires. We more likely face the curled lip, the civil scorn, the alienation of some whose good opinion we would prefer, or if we stand in some public position, the poisonous slanders of the press and the contumacious labels. These are trivial but very real tokens of dislike. We have the assassin's tongue instead of the assassin's dagger. But yet such things may call for as much heroism as braving a wreck. And the spirit that shoots out the tongue may be as bad as the spirit that yelled, "Christians to the lions." The Beatitudes are the preliminary work of Jesus that laid the foundation for the time when he would send his servants to proclaim the gospel of a needy and resisting world. He surely included this verse in his work of equipping them to face the lives of hardship and resistance that awaited them. And the Beatitudes have been preserved to our generation at great sacrifice, so that we too may share in their bounty of blessings and suffer in their rejection by the world. It is not for us to lower our flags to whoever fires across our bows. Have you felt it an effort to avow your principles, or that they are being smiled away by society? Have you ever been shown that this religion of yours is the one thing that stands between you and cordial reception by social elites, or work associates, or company of worldly friends? Well, let's first be sure we are indeed being persecuted, not for our own faults, but for righteousness' sake. Challenging to be both firm and tolerant. Let us remember that God is our great example of mercy. Let us also take Jesus as our barometer of patience. Let's treasure the reward he promised, the blessing that completes the golden ring on which hangs the jewels of the Beatitudes. Have you talked to God today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at godsfiveminutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.